Check this out. Imagine a kid screaming inside, trying to get noticed, but no one even bats an eye. Not a word, not a glance, nada. That's not a crazy movie plot. That's reality for some kids. And the wild thing? It leaves marks that stick for life. Today, we're diving into the psychology of the ignored child, the kids whose voices went unheard, whose feelings were invisible, and how that still messes with their adult life. By the end of this vid, you'll get why some adults feel like ghosts in their own lives, why connecting feels weird, and why your inner world might feel off. Let's get into it. And here's the kicker. This invisible stuff doesn't just vanish. It creeps into relationships, self-esteem, and how you see yourself. Let's break it down next. Alright, real talk. Every kid reaches out, emotionally. Sometimes it's a word, sometimes just a glance, a nod, a small sign that says, I see you. But what happens when nothing comes back? Silence. Blank faces. Ignored tears. That's where the real damage begins. Most people think trauma is a crash or a huge life event. But for the ignored child, trauma is quiet. It builds up, slowly, almost invisible. You start thinking maybe I don't matter. Maybe my feelings are useless. And that thought? Yes, into adulthood. Psychologists call it childhood emotional neglect, and it's sneaky because it's defined by what didn't happen, not by what did. The emotional mirroring never showed up. The attunement never happened. And without it, a kid can't learn to name their feelings, or even know that their feelings matter. Now here's where it gets real. These invisible wounds show up in your relationships, confidence, and how you deal with emotions. Next, we're gonna dive into how it messes with adulthood. Now here's where it gets kinda wild. The stuff you didn't get as a kid sneaks into adulthood. And I'm talking about more than just feeling sad sometimes. Kids who grew up ignored? They often turn into adults who are super high functioning on the outside, but inside? A little lost, maybe even disconnected from themselves. You know that feeling when you're crushing it at work, keeping it all together, but still something feels off? Yeah, that's the echo of being ignored. It's like your inner voice never got a chance to be heard. So, you learn to survive by showing only the stuff that would get noticed. Being funny, being helpful, being the one who never complains. And hey, that works that you get by. People like you, you're dependable, but here's the kicker. It's not real freedom. It's survival mode that got way too comfortable. And here's a twist: most people don't realize this invisibility teaches you to second-guess your feelings. You start asking yourself, am I overreacting? Am I being dramatic? Even when your feelings are 100% valid. By now, your adult identity has been shaped by this constant feedback loop of silence, and it makes intimacy, self-trust, and emotional honesty a lot harder than it should be. But don't freak out, we'll get into the how to fix later. For now, let's just understand the blueprint. And here's the real kicker: all this shapes the way you show up in relationships. You might be killing it on the outside, but inside, you're walking on eggshells without even realizing it. Next, we're diving straight into how this affects love, trust, and human connection. Alright, let's talk relationships, because this is where it really hits. If you grew up feeling invisible, connecting with people later on can feel kinda off. Like everyone else understands closeness, but you're just guessing your way through it. So what do? You build defenses. Someone gets close? You pull back. Someone compliments you? You brush it off like it's nothing. Not because you don't care, but because deep down, you don't trust it to last. Consistency feels strange. Real kindness? Sometimes it even feels uncomfortable. Because when love wasn't steady growing up, your brain learned one thing: don't depend on it. So now, you want connection, but the moment it starts getting real, something inside you hits the brakes. And you don't even realize why. But here's the good part: once you notice this pattern, you can start changing it. That distance you feel? It's not permanent. It's just something you learned. And here's where it gets deeper. If you don't understand your emotions, you can't fully understand your relationships either. Let's break that down next. Now let's talk about something most people overlook: your emotional awareness. If you were ignored as a kid, your feelings didn't get much attention. So over time, you kinda stopped paying attention to them too. Instead, you adapted. You became the funny one, the strong one, the reliable one, whatever worked to get noticed. And yeah, it worked. But those habits didn't just disappear. Now, you might struggle to even figure out what you're feeling. You feel something but you can't explain it. So you ignore it, push it down, or distract yourself. But change starts small. Just noticing your feelings. Sitting with them for a moment. Not running. Because every time you do that, you're teaching yourself something new, that your feelings actually matter. Once you start understanding your emotions, everything shifts, especially how you see yourself. And that's exactly where we're heading next. Okay, let's talk adulting. Growing up ignored teaches you some insane survival skills. You handle your business, crush deadlines, and never need help. The world sees competence, maybe even hero vibes. Here's the twist, that independence? It's armor, not freedom. You became self-reliant because you had to, not because you wanted to. And yeah, it works. Some of the most resilient, high-achieving adults come from this experience. But it can leave you feeling hollow inside. The hidden win? Resilience. You've been surviving, adapting, and thriving since childhood. The challenge? Learning to take off the armor sometimes, let people in, and realize being strong doesn't mean being alone. Independence is dope, but it shouldn't feel like a cage. Let's see how this invisible armor impacts love, trust, and human connection next. Now let's talk healing, the part where hope actually kicks in. Look, your brain is like ridiculously adaptable. The coping mechanisms you built as a kid, they can be rewired. Therapy helps, but it starts small. Noticing your anger, sitting with a feeling instead of running, pausing when you brush off a compliment. Every tiny moment is like telling your inner kid, hey, you're seen, you're valid, you matter. It's grieving something strange, the hugs, attention, and validation that never showed up. That sounds weird, but acknowledging it is the first step. And with patience, persistence, and maybe some professional help, your inner world can finally feel safe. Healing isn't about a giant breakthrough. It's about showing up for yourself, day by day, and finally letting your inner kid breathe. Here's the big takeaway. Being ignored as a kid leaves marks, but it doesn't define your life. Your inner kid still deserves love, attention, and care from you. Healing is a slow climb. It's noticing your feelings, trusting yourself, letting people in carefully, and saying, I matter. Those small steps, they compound into real change. If something in this vid hit home, that quiet recognition, pay attention. That voice inside you was always worth echoing. You just needed the right room to hear it. If this resonated, hit subscribe, check my other deep dives, and consider joining the community. We explore this stuff together, and you're not alone. Your inner kid is finally being heard, and that's a big deal. You've been unseen for too long, now it's your turn to be fully seen and heard. Step into your own light.